Hey there, Crown Crew fam. It's your host, Crown, back with another set of jaw-dropping stories that'll make you laugh, cringe, and maybe even cheer. We're all about keeping things light and fun here, so grab your favorite snack, sit back, and let's dive into the wild world of everyday adventures. You ready? Let's roll. Let me start by saying the kids had to be in their late teens or early 20s. Two of them had tattoos, not children but young adults, that still act like kids. I, 32 female, work at a Barricade company. Easiest way to describe it, I'm the one that closes down the traffic lanes and makes you late to stuff. This happened 2 days ago and I hope my revenge was sweet enough, but here you go. I had a lane closure that I needed to take off the road. I'm about halfway down when I get to the city bus stop with two guys and a girl. They asked me if I could give them a ride so they don't have to take the bus. I said, sorry guys, I can't. I'm working. And then continued to take the lane closure down. The girl stood up and told me, I freaking hate rude, ugly witches. I replied, congratulations, and keep doing my job. They keep yelling insults and I keep ignoring them. When I was about 300 feet away, the yelling stopped and I saw the guys had gotten up and started throwing the barricades in the street into the lane that is now open for traffic to drive in. I ran over and took them out of the road and explained to them that if they did it again, I would call the cops. Then the girl chimed in. Go ahead. It's not our fault you're so stupid. You're forgetting to take them all down. I ignore her and walk away, but they still do it anyway. I call the cops and they said that they will be there as soon as possible. In my experience, that means about an hour. So I walked over and told them that I called the cops. I kept standing there so they couldn't move them again. After about 5 minutes standing there, the boys told the girl that they were going to get a drink from the Circle K the bus stop was in front of. They left and she would not look at anything but her phone. Now I'm annoyed. I still have more work to do and this lane closure is still up and it's approaching rush hour. And I decided, screw these kids. I pulled out my pepper spray and I sprayed the handles of the barricades that they kept throwing in the street. And I walked about 50 feet away and waited. The boys came out of the store, put their bags down and grabbed a barricade in each and threw them into the street. But the handles were wet so they only went on the shoulder, so I didn't go to move them immediately. I saw they wiped their hands off on their pants, but because of the bus stop I couldn't see everything. But about a minute later one of the boys got up and ran into the Circle K with his hand over his eye and the other ran in there a second later too, though nothing seemed to be bothering him. About 10 minutes later when they came out of the store, the cops were just showing up and they both took off sprinting down the street and totally bailed on a girl. I talked to the cops and told them the boys ran off and the girl never touched the barricade so they were good to go. The girl was crying because her boyfriend left her there. I worked at a company straight out of high school that deals with sports/workwear as well as branding. I went to the interview for a storeman responsible for the cage, a place where we kept orders that were ready to be delivered as well as orders that are still awaiting payment. I started in early 2018 and it went well for the first 2 months. Then I found boxes of orders from more than 6 years ago and asked my boss about it. Her answer was to move me from the warehouse to the financial department and to find out why they are still there. Now first, I know almost nothing about finance. Secondly, as a guy of over 2 meters tall, sitting at a desk in a small office just doesn't work. But it came with a new job title, Finance Administrator, whatever that is. And the pay raise as well, so fine with me getting paid more for the same job. And all I have to do is go through some old papers as well. Sign me up. So over the next couple months, I made a list. I went through the whole cage and found more old orders, and I found more than 80 orders, totaling over a couple million in value. Every time I figured out why they were still there, I added the person to the list, as well as saying what happened to the items. My boss would look good in front of the owner. There was no reason as to why it was still there, or why it was there to begin with. My boss took that box and I never thought of it again. I just updated the list with which boss took that order, so when I finally had a reason for every order older than 1 month that was still there, I got a raise again and went back to the original job I was hired for still, with the finance administrator title on my contract. I was suddenly called to my boss's office where I was told that I was useless and not doing my job, and I was promptly fired. And here is where my revenge comes in. That list I had was on my computer, and the only copy of the list was in my personal email, as I would work from home sometimes. I hand-wrote the list and typed it at home. So when I went in to hand my laptop, I made sure to remove everything that I did from it. No list, no emails, nothing left. I then contacted a lawyer to ask for advice. My dad recommended I do this, saying they have no valid reason for firing me. My lawyer had a field day with this case. I got more than 2 years worth of pay, my full contracted time, as well as an apology from my ex-boss. But it doesn't end there. I contacted the owner of the company and informed him that I still had that list, and how my boss had fired me without reason, cost the company money, and how she took stock if I couldn't find a reason as to why it was still there. He informed me that he will look into this, and I sent him the list out of good faith. He was a nice guy the few times I met him. Finally, today I was talking to a friend that still works there. I was told that the police had shown up and had dragged that boss away in cuffs for stealing stock. You see, Adam and I are no strangers to the shooting range. We're just a couple of regular guys looking to blow off some steam and have some fun. Now, the range is usually a pretty chill place, but this day was destined to be different. We walk in, grab our ear protection, and load up our guns. Just as we're about to start shooting, we notice her, a quintessential Karen. And of course, she's accompanied by her poor 12-year-old kid who seems like he's seen it all before. We decide to ignore them and focus on our shooting. But obviously, Karen had different plans. She starts pacing around loudly complaining about everything. The noise, the smell, you name it. I look at Adam and we share a knowing look like, here we go. Karen then picks up her gun, a Glock by the looks of it, and starts waving it around as if she's auditioning for a Hollywood action movie. I lean over to Adam and whisper, this lady is a few rounds short of a full magazine. Adam chuckles and says, yeah, and I bet she's gonna make sure we know it. As if on cue, Karen saunters over to us. Excuse me, she says, in that tone that instantly makes you want to roll your eyes. But you boys are making way too much noise. My precious angel here cannot concentrate with all this racket. Now, let me tell you, our shots were on point, but they weren't anywhere near as noisy as Karen's demands. We look at each other again, barely containing our laughter. Sorry, ma'am. We'll try to keep it down. Karen huffs, not satisfied, and walks away with an eye roll. Adam and I continue shooting, occasionally stealing glances at each other and mimicking her over-the-top mannerisms. We're just having a bit fun, nothing malicious. But apparently Karen has her own idea of fun. She marches back over with a really angry face. You think this is a joke, huh? Mocking me and my son. I'm about to explain that we weren't mocking her, but Adam beats me to it. Oh, come on now. We're just here to enjoy some shooting. Lighten up a little. Well, that was the last straw for Karen. She raises her gun, pointing it directly at Adam. My heart starts racing, and I'm ready to intervene if things got worse. Adam, though, remains remarkably calm. You sure you want to go down this path, ma'am? He asks with a steady voice. Karen smirks, thinking she has the upper hand. What are you going to do about it, tough guy? Oh boy, that's when Adam drops the bombshell. Well, for starters, I'm an Air Force pilot. Pretty good shot too. But Karen, being Karen, doesn't just back down. Oh please, you're just bluffing to scare me. I am not buying your act. If you don't stop this nonsense right now, I swear I'll hurt you. I exchange a quick look with Adam. Things are escalating fast and Karen is not backing down easily. But Adam's not one to give up that easily. He takes a deep breath, his expression serious. Alright, you want another fact? Here it is. I have a brain tumor, Karen. Terminal. I've got nothing to lose, really. So go ahead, shoot me if you think that'll prove something. In fact, if you do, you'd actually be doing me a favor. I can feel the tension in the air, and Karen's bravado wavers for a moment. Her grip on a gun falters. You're lying, she stammers. Adam's look never wavers. Do I look like I'm lying? Take a good look at me, Karen. This is a man who's staring this in the face. And let me tell you, I am not scared of dying. Karen seemingly realizes the gravity of the situation. She lowers her gun slightly, uncertain of what to do. And that's when Adam goes for the final play. You see that guy behind me? He nods in my direction. He is not bluffing either. He has got a clear shot, and if you make one wrong move, he's going to shoot you dead. Right in front of your kid. Self-defense, of course. So is that really what you want? Karen's expression turns from defiance to hesitation, then outright terror. Her son is looking at her with wide eyes, realizing just how serious the situation has become. She glances from Adam to me, clearly torn between her ego and the harsh reality in front of her. In that moment, when the range is dead silent and all eyes are on Karen, she slowly lowers her gun to the table. Adam doesn't waste a second. He moves forward with lightning speed, disarming her before she even comprehends what's happening. The gun clatters to the ground and Adam pins her down with practiced ease. I'm on the phone with 911 explaining the situation as calmly as I can. The range officer hurries over, his eyes wide as he takes in the scene. What the hell just happened? Adam shoots him a wry smile. Just your average day at the range, huh? It's not long before the cops arrive. They review the security footage, confirming our side of the story. Karen is handcuffed, her wild threats reduced to desperate pleas. As the officers let Karen away, she shoots one last death glare at Adam, but he just stares back with a cold expression. The range officer pats Adam on the back again, this time with even more respect. "You handled that like a damn bro," he says. Adam shrugs, just doing what needed to be done. "Plus, I'm a bro," he says with a chuckle. And that's how our day at the shooting range turned into an unexpected encounter with an entitled Karen. A moment of tense standoff and a dramatic takedown that would make any action movie proud. So let's just say don't mess with Air Force pilots, don't underestimate the power of a well-timed truce bomb, and definitely don't bring your entitled attitude to a shooting range, because sometimes life throws you curveballs and you better hope you've got a guy like Adam by your side to knock them out of the park. Get it? Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention earlier. The truth about Adam's so-called brain tumor? Yeah, that was a bluff. Adam didn't actually have a tumor or anything remotely close to it. He later admitted that he just came up with that on the spot to throw Karen off balance. Classic Adam, always thinking on his feet. After the whole ordeal, as we were packing up our gear and heading out, I turned to Adam with a smirk. "So, brain tumor, huh? That was quite the ace up your sleeve." Adam grinned back at me. Well, desperate times call for desperate measures. Besides, it seemed to do the trick, didn't it? We both laughed, shaking our heads at the absurdity of the situation. As it turns out, even a little white lie can go a long way in the right circumstances. And honestly, who could blame Adam for trying everything in his power to defuse that kind of situation? I, 33 male, am staying at my grandparents' house for the holidays. My grandparents passed away and the house was maintained by their children, making it into communal space for all family members to use. The rooms are usually saved for those who visit from out of town like me. I have a cousin, Frank, 34 male, who also visited but stayed elsewhere. We were close growing up. Frank was married to his high school sweetheart Kim for more than 10 years, with a 6-year-old daughter. Kim passed away in an accident just a little over a year ago. Frank was more than devastated. What set Frank apart from most guys I know was how deeply he loved his wife. He was an exceptionally happily married man. His goodbye phrase to me, private or in public, was "See ya, miserable single loser" later. He was making fun of how I never had a long-time girlfriend. I always took it in good fun. It was so nice to see a guy so devoted, given that my parents and more than half my aunts and uncles divorced. A few days after I stayed at my grandparents', my nephew Tom, 17 male, showed up with a few friends wanting to watch a movie. Tom lives with my sister nearby. I ordered the boys some pizza and joined them. A bit later, Frank dropped by, wanting to catch up with me. We stayed in the same room and talked. Frank seemed to be doing much better since the last time I saw him a month after Kim's funeral. Once the movie was finished, Tom asked if they could hang out in the room for a while, and I said yes. Frank, however, excused himself, saying he needed to pick up his daughter. We hugged goodbye and Frank was about to leave when Tom said, "What? None of that miserable single loser stuff? Welcome to the club. Guess now you're a miserable single loser too." I could see the colors drained from Frank's face and he looked like he was going to pass out. I immediately turned to Tom and told him to apologize, and now. Tom said why should he apologize, and I only raised my voice with now. Tom glared at me but finally looked away and softly said sorry to Frank. Frank just left. Tom's friends mumbled about how they had to go and quickly cleaned up and left. Tom leaving with them. Later that night, Tom's father called me from across the country, reprimanding me that I should not shame Tom in front of his friends like that. He said he understood that what Tom said was insensitive, but being scolded like a child in front of his friends was not how I should handle this. I could wait and have Tom apologize later. Am I the jerk in this situation? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, no, 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 no. What you did was absolutely the right thing. Tom needed to be told immediately and in no uncertain terms that what he said was absolutely and completely awful, and that he needed to apologize immediately. Tom literally could have walked up to Frank and sucker punched him in the face, and it would have hurt Frank less. Not the jerk. If you haven't already, spent some time talking to Tom's dad and make sure he knows what really happened. Tom may have described what happened in a way that made him less of a bad guy. Edit? I just wanted to point out that I also really like what someone said below. I sat down with Tom and explained to him that yes, Frank is indeed a miserable single loser. He's miserable because he's single, because he's lost more than Tom can even begin to fathom. Rubbing that in Frank's face is just abusively cruel. Another commenter adds, not the jerk. That insensitive little git needs to learn lessons about respect. Parents ain't taught him by 17, so somebody else ought to. Only thing God said to change is you could have kept Tom with you for a minute before he dipped after his friend, and tried to have a more calm discussion about why what he said was so disrespectful. But to simply have raised your voice once to gain compliance? Not the jerk. You didn't hit him. You didn't deprive him of food. You didn't make him run until he puked. You raised your voice at him. It happens. And it was reasonably justified. The third commenter goes with, not the jerk. That little jerk is 17 years old. I audibly gasped when I read that line. He was extremely lucky that you didn't answer with, out, now, and don't come back until you know why, and apologize in detail. As for his father, he wasn't there, he didn't see Frank's reaction or the fact that your nephew was going for a performative wind-up, because his friends were there and seriously overshot. I think you held your timber admirably, due to superhuman effort, or symbol shock. If your brother brings it up again, you explain the scene in bleeding detail. That nephew would have a mark against his name in my book for a very, very long time. Not the jerk, but that nephew sure as hell is. I was flying out of Philadelphia after visiting a good friend for a week. I travel pretty frequently and like to make security checks as painless as possible for me and everyone else involved, so usually the only thing I need to get on a belt is my carry-on bag, shoes, and phone. I get to the security table, kick off my shoes, throw them in a bin with my phone and boarding pass so there is nothing in my hands. Bag is on my shoulder and the bin is in my hands and I'm ready to go. Enter two wild Karens. Perhaps they are not full-blown Karens separately, but together, their powers have amplified. Combined, the Karens have about 6 pins of toiletries, electronics, shoes, and other nonsense, and they are taking their sweet time. They obviously know this, as moments before I entered, the line Karen 1 had allowed someone to pass on front of them. Anxious to get through as I'm in a tight spot between the Karens in front, a stand where they check your boarding pass and ID behind me, and a table to my left. I cut around the other side to the table and asked Karen 1, do you mind if I just jump ahead? She's instantly miffed and responds, no, and I don't know where you think you're going. That side is blocked off. Not one to stay quiet, I respond, just trying to get my stuff on a belt, but fine, take your time. Most Karens ignore me, leave their bins on a table, and proceed to the body scanner. I stood there confused for a moment. I was still at the end of the table about 3 feet from the belt where items are supposed to be placed. Did they expect me to place all their items on a belt for them? No thanks. I grab my bin and bag, place it on the belt and begin walking towards the body scanner. The guy who checks the boarding passes stops me to ask if the items left behind are mine. Nope, keep moving forward. I hear him calling across the security checkpoint to ask whose items had been left behind. I apologize to the casual bystander for this nonsense. I encountered the Karens on the other side as they looked perplexed as my items came through first. I hear Karen 1 whisper to Karen 2, our stuff is still on a table on the other side. Yikes. I grab my items and leave, and the Karens have to return to the other side, push their item through, and get re-scanned. Just don't be rude to people if you're going to leave your stuff with them. And that's a wrap, folks. I hope you enjoyed these tales as much as I did. Remember, life's an adventure with stories waiting at every corner. If you've got a story of your own, don't hesitate to share it with us here at Crown Corner. Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and hey, keep spreading those good vibes. Until next time, stay awesome, stay carefree, and keep rocking. Crown out.